do jumping jacks to get the teacher's attention away from the quote-unquote boys section. So how did I know this wasn't more of the same? The woman's suspicion. Because after I answered her question about my little library card, I still was not believed. I couldn't have explained it at the time, but I knew this was about more than me not being a boy. Why did you give me this name? I demanded, letting my books fall loudly on the table next to us. My mother, probably wondering how she'd managed to raise a little Judy Blume character of her own, started retelling the story of my grandmother and the Austen family. But I cut her off. Mama, I know how you came up with my name, but why did you choose it? She walked me over to a set of scratchy green armchairs and started talking in a slow, soothing voice. Austen, your father and I had a really hard time coming up with a name that we both liked. One of us thought to use your grandmother's maiden name, her last name before she married your grandfather. I already knew this part of the story. I swung my legs impatiently, waiting for her to tell me more. As we said it aloud, we loved it, she continued. We knew that anyone who saw it before meeting you would assume you are a white man. One day, you will have to apply for jobs. We just wanted to make sure you could make it to the interview. My mother watched my face, waiting for a reaction. My brain scrolled through all the times a stranger had said my name, but wasn't talking to me. In every instance, the intended target had been not only a boy, but a white boy. I didn't quite understand my mother's point about job applications. To that point, the only application I had filled out was probably for the library card in my hand. But one thing became clear. People's reaction to my name wasn't just about my gender. It was also about my brown skin. My legs stilled. That's why the librarian hadn't believed me. She didn't know a name like Austen could be stretched wide enough to cloak a little black girl. As I grew older, my parents' plan worked, almost too well. To this day, I receive emails addressed to Mr. Austen Brown and voicemails asking if Mr. Brown can please return their call. When I am being introduced to new people, there is often an attempt to feminize my name. You mean Autumn? Or to assign my name to my husband. And though I usually note that I am a black woman in my cover letters, I nonetheless surprise hiring committees when I show up to the interview in all my melanin glory. Heading into the meeting, I'm dressed up and nervous. Typically, I have made it beyond the essay writing stage, the personality test, or the phone interview with HR. This in-person group interview is usually the final step. I sit in the lobby, waiting for someone to collect me. An assistant comes around the corner and looks at me, wondering if I could possibly be the next candidate. A little tentative, in case a grave mistake has been made, he asks, "Are you Austen?" I reply with an enthusiastic yes, pretending I didn't notice the look of panic that they'd accidentally invited a black girl to the interview. The tension eases for him as it grips the muscle under my right shoulder blade. I silently take a couple deep breaths as I follow him to the conference room. Everyone, this is Austen. Every pair of eyes looks at me in surprise. They look at the person next to them. They blink. Then they look down at my resume. Every single time. The person who walked me into the room is still talking, but no one is listening. They are all combing my resume, looking for clues. Should they have known? Am I now more impressive or less impressive? What does this mean for the position? For the partners? For the team? They weren't prepared for this. They were expecting a white man. It would be comical if it wasn't so damn disappointing. Thanks to the progressive circles I usually travel in, most people want to be excited by the mistake and ignore all the thoughts, the questions, the change that happened when my body stood before them. But that moment cannot be ignored. The thoughts and questions may dissipate from the interview, but never from the mind, the heart. For this becomes the unspoken question for my entire time with an organization. Are we